and whatever I see is smiling at me. Love is who I am. Hello there, beloved Ascension players, and welcome to this video topic today with me here. I couldn't have picked a better spot. It is such a beautiful day here. I'm on a cliff above our Twin Lakes, and I had this amazing trip, and I had a few things that I wanted to express or talk about before I go on a little bit of the Hermitage quest again, because I've been talking about all August how this will be my retreat month, and it hasn't really been. I've been working a lot, but you know, it's just spontaneous flow. And I want to start with sharing something very important as an eclipse update. I'm sure you all had your experience yourself. And I want us to share within the community. So if you have any of your own sharings, if you want to contribute, you know that comments are disabled on my YouTube channel, and that's for a reason, but you can always comment on my page, Ascension Pioneers. There's also a new page that I developed, which is called by my name, Polona Rea Dawn, on Facebook, and this page is more dedicated to the Tantrika path and Illumine Human, and the posts on this path of how to become fully merge with our soul embodiment process. So the thing is that I've had this epiphany, and it was a very strong revelation of what occurred during my own eclipse experience. And as a lot of people were distracted by the physical appearance of the eclipse, you know, and I really laughed when recently this astrologer said, you know, guys, this physical experience of the eclipse is not about getting beers and, you know, hang out with your buddies and look at the eclipse. You're missing the point. It's an inward journey. It's an alchemy of the light, and it's true. So what I've experienced in my own hermitage, and that's why I am so strongly you know, guided to be in the sacred surroundings and in this alone space, because it takes hours and hours of this constant contemplation and devotion 24/7, so I can share these messages within the group. And sometimes people tell me they want to have a contact with me, like just have a talk. I can't do that, you know. I can't talk on a free basis with everyone. There's too many people. My guidance always comes through the group formation, which is the group consciousness I hold as the level of light within, and then I can transfer these messages to people who it needs to come across, who will benefit from the sharing. So during this eclipse, for myself, I've noticed this inward focus, and for me personally, I did not, you know, I couldn't care less whether, you know, the physical event would occur or not. I knew it was positioned across the proper geographical region as opposed to be seen, and opposed to not being seen for those of us who are experiencing more as an inward journey. So I want to tell you what happened during the eclipse. So we had 3 days of the light that came through the sun that felt really almost like overshadowing the sun, and I couldn't tell what it is, but I remember specifically the day, on the day of the eclipse, which was on Monday 21st of August. I was out all day, and I was doing some automatic writing. I had my crystal skulls, and then I went to do yoga, and I just sat there, and I felt more called to just meditate. I wasn't guided to do any sort of special body movements, and I always trust myself. I trust the life force that tells me what is required for each specific moment. And then I sat there, and I was looking at the sun. It had no magnitude. It was like blank. And the feeling all day was void, but it was a different kind of void that, you know, we experience usually during each new moon, because it's a normal phase, it's a normal cycle of creation. So I sat there and I said to myself out loud, wow, it feels like a hologram is placed, you know, like a hologram is placed around the sun. It feels weird. It wasn't solar flares, not solar flares, but you know, when they do chemtrails, when the solar flares happen, it felt different. And I said, okay, you know, it just is what it is. For 3 days, I experienced intense bloating. I couldn't really digest food properly. I shared this with you before. And for 3 days, we had this, almost like this hazy glare. Felt really weird. And for 3 days, it felt like the inner darkness, like the inner void, when there was a feeling of disconnect from the light. And I can tell you this from my own experience as a creation pillar, and how I connect to cosmic energy. And those of us who are not just physical empaths, which feel the feelings and sensations of other humans, yes, but cosmic empaths who feel every influence and effect of cosmic energies, cosmic rays, pulsations of light, liquid light, plasmic light, all of that, solar flares. We're so deeply connected and in tune that we just receive these messages. And that's what this video is about, the body changes and becoming the galactic human and what it is. And I want to start up by feeling the galactic human knows these things. It's connected with the cosmic energies. So it's funny, right? And the second day I said I need to push the energy forward. So I was guided to climb the Ferrata route. We have this new Ferrata route. It goes through this mountain creek, mountain gorge, and you're climbing up the water. It's really beautiful. And I just felt, okay, the energy is moving forward, you know, something's happening. And as I was sitting there and I got this reflective energy, I finished all my Vivamos books. So I was like, I need to be on the beach. I need to read something. And I was mentally browsing through my books that I have there. You know, I have a lot of books that I've never read. They're just there, waiting for something to come, because we, as new humans, we read per guidance. We don't read from A to Z. We read when we're guided, because there's something there that influences us in the now. So I had this thought, and I saw this book, You're Becoming a Galactic Human. I got it last year, but I never read it. So I took it on the beach later, and I went through it, and I started reading about these changes and how these holographic, it's almost like a holograph would be placed around our Earth, and how the polarities of the sun would be altered because of our entrance into the photon belt and receiving of the photonic light, and how that would influence us. I don't like this aspect here because it's shared through timing, like certain timelines. Anything prophetic, giving you dates, it's just talking about different timelines. But I always receive my guidance in the now, something that's literally happening. And that's why I got this guidance, got the book, and I was reading about it, and it said exactly about these things, and it spoke about the bloating and how it would be because of this decompression of this energy that'd be so intense. And as it spoke about the holograph, I was like, why did I say out loud to myself, it feels like it's a holographic matrix around. But later, as I said, to meditate, I knew this was coming in the moment, and that's how starseed beings and masters of the self, we read things, we receive from spirit directly, go there, take a look here, you know, it's guidance, it's showing us what's happening. And I knew because it described this exactly as what's happening. And after 3 days, I was fine. I could eat normally again, there was no more hazy light around the sun, and I was actually shown that this was created for our protection. Because when these energies, sometimes they're so intense, the polarity shift, we can't respond directly through our physicality to these shifts in these polarities as they're being adjusted through many great beings of light, spiritual hierarchy, the ET beings, the benevolent influences of light around the planet. Is the whole Gaia's outpouring of, you know, this calling out for ascension. It's all part of one unified team of light. And so I was shown that every time these things happen, the majority of humans doesn't know, and most of them are distracted with physical things, and physical events are always distractions. So for those of us who are more living in a hermitage life and being spirit guides is for a reason. My aloneness was always for a reason, because if I was not in this space, if I was always socially interactive and dealing with so many things at once, even the computer, sometimes internet and instant messaging and all these emails, they would distract me. So I only do that when I feel, okay, now it's time, I go have a look, you know, do that as that partial purpose, but it's not my main purpose, is to really be rooted within this experience of what's occurring. So I was shown that this wasn't just haha, it's holograph, it was really happening. The sun did not feel the same. Yesterday, for the first time, I went home from the beach. I look at the sun as it's going down and the sun's setting, timing, and it really felt proper again. It felt, oh, you're back. Before, it just didn't feel right. And we cannot imagine, majority of humans, because they're not as connected to this light streaming, which is a direct. It's without these intermediaries. You don't even know how much it influences. You're not even grateful for it because you're just taking it for granted. But those of us who are cosmic empaths, we feel changes, even the subtle energy adjustment, we will feel it in our bodies, and something will tell us this is not the same. And for those 3 days, it felt like a disconnect, but it wasn't a disconnect from our source, but it was a disconnect from, it's almost like the solar matrix we're used to, the solar logos, which is always in this dynamic flow, but this was used. And why was it exactly positioned and utilized around the eclipse, those 3 days around the eclipse? Because we talk about the 3 days of darkness, That's metaphorical, of course. It can be so in some adjustments, but again, it's about timelines that, you know, merge and coalesce in different forms. But in the unified now, you will receive guidance as what's happening now, because as humans, we need to learn the cosmic empathy comes from learning that the unified timeline is all the timelines that it's like they converge in this unified reality. That's why I always tell you, listen to and raise your life force. To become a galactic human and to have these perceptions altered and expanded in such a way. And sometimes people say, recently someone said to me in a very kind of like smarty pants way, sorry guys, but I have to tell it how it is, like, why do I always appear to be, you know, smarter than others? It's not about that. I don't know more, or I'm not smarter. I just work so much and within my light team and within my expanded consciousness that my perception is very expanded. So I see from many points of view simultaneously, which helps me to tap into a unified reality. You might think of that in linear terms as knowing more, but it's just seeing from a broader, more unified perspective, from a merged, fused perspective. That a lot of people don't understand this, but this requires constant steady work on yourself, lots of hermitage, solitude, rest time, yoga, tantra, all of that. It's a constant path of this self-rejuvenation, and it's a galactic human part, you know, that we play, that cosmic guides here, we play in this scenario. But I want to tell you, these things are real, they're really happening, and I felt how much light we receive constantly from the sun. And when this was like a protective bubble, and this is what it speaks about in this book, about the protective bubble that will kind of shield us during the experience of this intensity, this cosmic impact, and the compressive effect. And I felt, wow, we are always in such a divine intervention state, and there's beings and beings of light, but we don't always see. And I want to get this message across for the first part of the video. Okay, so lots of interesting things in this book. I didn't read the whole of it. I just was guided to the part that was necessary for this time. And you also have this part when the changes are described, the photon belt's effect on the human body. And this speaks about literally how through the inner alchemy our bodies would start to change because of this impact. But because the human system cannot be wired in a new way like this in an instant, sometimes people believe in that scenario, I don't. The density that we know as the gross human and the semi-etheric form that the new galactic human is all about. It's the new light being body. It's a higher refined form of light that it is a part of my tantric path to teach about this, because a lot of us, we already have the crystalline gene or the crystalline template or the crystalline genome, however you might call it. It's the crystalline information that we came here as crystalline soul group to bring forth, to establish on earth. And through this light etheric imprint that we send out as ripples and waves of energy, we help to infuse the whole. And those that are ready are gradually starting to alter their DNA in this alchemical process. So it's described also about the DNA helixes, how they're shifting into this. As you can see, the Star of David, the Star of Merkaba, and you have 6 pairs, which is a 12-folded or 6 double helix folded formation. That's the new galactic human, which is 12 strands of DNA, 13th octave, your inner source, complete connection to the galactic core, to the pulse of life. There is no other way to become this galactic human, to start working on the unification of your physical body, the spirit. It's not something you can get on the outside, even though you believe it's happening as cosmic energy. I don't need to do anything. You do need to prepare your physical vehicle in terms of how the light will travel to your body. If you have lots of blockages, old beliefs, perceptions, it's not going to be so easy for this light to travel through your body. So I've prepared an automatic writing about this in terms of the physical and the spiritual perspective and what this is about, and the crystalline genome, the crystalline DNA that crystal souls have. And I'm a part of this soul group, and as a creation pillar, I help to bring this refined purity of the new DNA. And I remember years ago, I was in Bosnia and the Bosnian pyramids, and then Serbia. There was this woman from there. She was doing Mayan astrology, and she met me and the person I was traveling with, and she saw me instantly, and she said, "Wow, you're one of those who have already a half ethereal form." I'm like, what? I didn't know back then what this was about. And then I read in this book about this new semi-ethereal form. There was a lighter, it's a lighter physical density. It's not physically obvious, but we feel lighter. And yesterday I was asking myself why certain things that I could do as very much involving physical power and lots of stamina in a very physical way. It's a very robust physical body, a gross physical body. why I couldn't do those things. I'm not guided to do those things anymore. And Spirit showed me that the new light human needs more lighter movement. And I remember reading in Solar Eclipse's book how Ascension requires, in the physical sense, more lighter form of exercise. And when I watch all these people here, sometimes I'm looking at everybody's climbing, so outdoorsy, running, biking. It's like so much. And when I try to do that, it's like, oh, it's not that I'm not in shape, because I'm constantly energized and active. It's just I'm starting to be active in a new way. It's more that balanced, integrated requirement for the light being, for the semi-ethereal human form, which is now, it's different. And you will start noticing these changes within yourself. So the first question I have for you, have you noticed this? About the holograph and the energy feeling different, not the same sun, not the same frequency emanation for 3 days. Second thing, how are you noticing these changes in your body? And now we're going to talk about the fusing, the merging of the physical and the spiritual, because I'm noticing there's so much movement in the world, so much yoga. It's an increased activity. And now everyone on Instagram, everyone's a yogi, everyone's a yogini, everyone's whatever, you know, and it's getting to the point where it's just like overflowing the human realm. And I was writing about this, and it makes such perfect sense. So I want to read it to you, and then it's a wrap. So I was asking why there are so many around the world engaging in yoga as a part of an increased physical yoga movement. And this is the answer that I received. As you know, a lot of people talk about the yoga as a union with your body. But yoga is not just the union with our bodies. It's the union with all life. It's the union with the Seed of Life template. If you don't understand what this is, it will be in my new Tantrika book. I'm at the point of third book, writing and editing and manuscripting and all of that, and receiving still information. And it's also in my Cosmic Orgasm and Tantrika mini audiobook that's on my homepage of Serapina Life. So let's begin. The word yoga means union, although the primordial union, which is meant to represent from the Seed of Life design, is the union of the Seed of Life itself as a divine blueprint of creation's DNA and the physical life itself. Therefore, the union of yoga can be perceived and attained on many levels. The primary union spoken of here from the Seed of Life template is the union of feminine and masculine forces of creation, the womb and the seed, the divine mother and father as one, or the light and the flesh, the spirit and form. The yo in yoga is the same as the yo in yoni, which is the ancient word for the womb consciousness. That, of course, does not relate to a physical reproductive organ itself, but rather the womb consciousness of being able to give life within light, or light within life, or bringing the aspect of light into life, thus creating the effect of soul-infused or animated matter. Therefore, the increase in yoga and physical activity in general in the current collective human consciousness is a direct result of DNA awakening as the code of the Seed of Life that reawakens in humanity. The increase in consciousness brings powerful new openings to the new operational system within the human body template. The shift into galactic consciousness is bringing with it the activation, the DNA, and the light activation of the human physical vehicle. However, this prime light or a higher density light is being processed in the human body light package per light package. It's a gradual process of increased light DNA intelligence which gains momentum through increased awareness, which must be an accompanying factor within the entire process. There are so many who might confuse this for a strictly physical process, which it is not. It is a fusion of light as light particles of the new galactic proportions that are being implemented and integrated into the human structure and form, and must therefore be approached in this manner. There would be those who are compelled to stretch out only the physical body, or those who would be more prone to stretching the spiritual body and deepening awareness. Within the collective consciousness, these frameworks need to merge, and they are merging, and although there might currently seem to be a division or a gap between those who are stretching out the physical form and those who do so with their spiritual form, they're actually two angles of the same merging process, which will eventually meet and co-create as one. Within this process, there are those who are taking a more physical approach and those who are using a more spiritual approach. From the perspective of one source in unity consciousness, they are one and the same, although they appear to be functioning differently. With this passageway into the New Age, both of these perspectives need to be fully explored or stretched into. Therefore, there is such a seeming polarization present at this time. However, the extremes will eventually meet, merge, and unify. There needs to be a clear allowance of this process present, especially amongst those aware luminaries who do understand this process better than anyone else from a creation point of view and the process of unification through soul individualization. There are very few beings present at this time who have gained momentum of spiritual understanding through merging both pathways, the spiritual and physical, the vertical and horizontal. These great tantrika beings are the key holders in this unifying process, for they are bringing the codes for the merging process which they themselves have successfully achieved and managed at the core creation level. The process requires deep understanding of the seed of life, the human prototype design, and the path of destiny for the illumined new human template. This requires self-mastery and then the mastery of life force itself, which is that unifying element that holds the key for this process of unification. Those who are currently stretching their physical bodies only would, through this path, eventually discover the other missing link for the illumination process, and the same goes for those who are only exercising their spiritual bodies. The key for the integration lies also in other two bodies, the emotional and mental, for through the mental body one gains the proper awareness of this process and later utilizes and integrates it through the feeling, expressive nature of the emotional body. This is a simplified version of what this process requires and how the seed of life as a template for the new illumined human is unfolding. Within the two extreme approaches or perspectives, information constantly and simultaneously travels as light, and so they both equally inspire and inform each other through greater integration, wholeness, and completion of the inner and outer illumination. As one, the vertical and horizontal, united, live together as one in unity. I also want to say that the new human or the galactic human or the illumined human, that's all the same, and it deals with a certain light quotient, which I'll talk about in the next video. And this means that we've gathered this light mechanism. We've established the light mechanism so that the light can be not just flowing through but utilized proportionally in equal distribution and unifying in a unifying way through our bodies. And there is no other way but to become masters of life force. And I've been talking about this, I guess, for 2 years, and it culminated within the creation of my Tantrika Life Force Mastery course, because there is no other way. It's not like, okay, it's just gonna happen. We are the conscious creators we're gonna create this light pathway. And I want to say something more here for the finalizing event, the crystalline code and what it is. Just a short writing and then we're done, I promise. So the crystalline DNA, or the illumined human DNA, is the semi-etheric imprint that creates a higher vibratory human genome with a higher conductory rate for light particles, which in turn result in greater capacity of soul gifts and abilities, telepathic receiving an instant connection to cosmic information, which is the cosmic empathy, or divine intelligence of source light. Those who already carry the crystalline code DNA template hold the crystalline key to the new living library that is being created within the structures of the human genome. The crystalline gene is the so-called missing link, which the starseed ones for the Illumin project have begun to activate within the human collective through their own crystalline DNA formation. As particles begin to spin and travel faster, the human DNA begins to awaken. This is the result of external mechanisms of celestial light infusion, which in turn activates the physical realms of creation and, of course, our experience within those realms. Those with an already built-in crystalline gene were sent out to planets to accelerate this process within the many or the human collective in order to help them move through this transition period so that they could more easily adapt and adjust to this process. And what is perhaps for some people unfathomable, it's becoming inevitable and it's becoming self-obvious. So there's some interesting things in this book. I can't recommend it fully because I haven't read it yet. I read the first part, the first 60 pages. So if you want to get more information, a lot about this is shared in my Tantrika, The Seed of Life and the Cosmic Orgasm. It will be in my third book, which is the final one I'm working on now after the first two. There's also light activations on my page for the Illumined DNA human. And of course, my Tantrika Life Force course mastery. So, my beloved ones, I wish you so much beauty and grace within this path, and I'll share more on the 144,000 light quotient and the resurgence of this and these light beings in the next video, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care.